Bom, boa noite, pessoal. Vamos lá para mais uma aula, aula número 8. Vamos lá na sequência. Então, pessoal, aqui eu vou falar um pouco sobre os números no inglês, né? Então, os números no inglês é importante você saber, pelo menos a sequência inicial até o 20, que é meio que diferente. A partir do 20 só muda poucas coisas, né? A sequência do 20 ao 29 é para todas até o 99. Então, vamos começar lá. Vamos começar. Vou pegar a caneta aqui, né? Sempre é bom ter. Então, o 0 seria 0. Número 1, 1. 2, 2. 3, 3. 4, 4. 5, 5. 6, 6. 7, 7. 8, 8. 9, 9. E 10, 10. Até aqui tudo ok. Agora começa a mudar a partir do número 11 ao número 3, ao número 12, né? Que são as diferenças? Então, aqui o número 11, 11, e número 12, 12. Agora, do número 13 até o número 19, é uma sequência. Então, é 30, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 e 19. Por que isso aqui? Porque aqui que é a teenager, fase da adolescência, né? Dos 13 aos 19 anos. E aí, quando você chega no número 20, aí já é um pouco diferente. Aí muda um pouquinho a sequência. Então, número 20 é 20, 20. Aí, número 21, 21. Número 22, 22. Número 23, 23. Número 24, 24. Número 25, 25. Número 26, 26. E assim vai por diante. Aí, quando você chega no 30, 30. 31, 32, 33, 35, 36, assim por diante. Aí 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 60, 61, 63, 62, 63, 64, 70, 71, 72, 73, aí vai por diante. 74, aí 18, 81, 82, 83, 84, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. Aí quando chega no 100, já muda por 100. 101, 200, 202, 300, 304, 400, 500, 600, 700, 1800, 900. Aí quando chega no 1000, 1000, 2000, 10,000, aí 100,000, quando chega no 100 mil, 100,000, no 1 milhão, 1 million, 10 million. Aqui, 123.456.759. Você pode falar 123 million ou 460,000 ou 789. Pode ser. É tudo isso aqui, na verdade. 122.456,000, que é o 456, né? Ele pegou aqui 123 e 123 milhões, 453 e 789, 789. Agora vamos falar sobre as horas. Tell to the time. Tell to the time. Então, horas. Nós temos numerais, né? Do 1 até o 12, né? Então, it's 5 past, né? É que a gente fala 10 para 5, 5 para 10. Eles também falam dessa maneira, né? It's 10 past, it's quarter past. Só que aqui é 5 para, 10 para, um quarto já se passou, né? 20 past, né? 25 past. Então, aqui, ó. Então, quer dizer que é 2 horas. It's 2 o'clock. Quando você quer dizer que é 2:05, já se passou, né? 2 horas já se passou. Então, it's 5:02. Então, se passou 5 para as 2, né? É ao contrário, aqui. Aí aqui sempre fala esse aqui primeiro, depois você coloca esse aqui. Então, primeiro é it's 10:02, 2:10. 2:15, it's 2:15. 2:20, it's 20:02. 2:25, it's 25:02. Agora aqui, 2:30, it's 2:30. Aqui, ó, 30. 2:35, ó, tá vendo aqui, ó, que acompanha? 25. It's 25:03. Aí, 2:40, it's 20:03. 2:45, it's quarter to 3. Então, falta um quarto para as 3. 2:50, it's 10:03, 10 para as 3. 2:55, it's 5:43. Então, sempre é bom seguir esse caminho aqui, ó. Você vai seguindo o caminhozinho. É um caminhozinho isso aqui. Você vai seguindo, vai seguindo, vai seguindo, vai seguindo, até voltar para o it's o'clock. Aqui, quando você quer falar meia-noite ou meio-dia, pode falar midday, meio-dia, e midnight, meia-noite. Agora a gente vai falar sobre o how many. Many, ele tem várias formas de você falar. Então, many means many when you use in plural words with things that can be contained one by one. This means that everything that is countable, such as objects that can be separated by quantity, should be used with many. Então, many ele tem o significado de many, muito. Então, é usado em palavras no plural. Quando você pensa que pode ser alguma coisa que é contável, né? Uma por uma, one by one. E o significado e também pode significar muitas coisas que são contáveis, como alguns objetos, e podem ser separados em quantidade. E podem ser usados, muitos podem ser, e quando são usados, né? Aí se usa um many. Então, vamos falar algumas frases com many. Então, how many, né? I bought many apples yesterday. Então, aqui, ó, uma coisa que é contável. I bought many apples. He found many pens. Many pens. If I were a millionaire, I would buy many cars. Contável, né? Então, colocou aqui. Vamos colocar aqui, então. I bought many apples yesterday. Eu comprei muitas maçãs ontem. He found many pens on her drawer. Então, ele encontrou muitas canetas na gaveta dela. If I were a millionaire, I would buy many cars. Se eu fosse milionário, eu compraria muitos carros. I'm not very popular. I don't have many friends. Eu não sou muito popular, então eu não tenho muitos amigos. E o much é ao contrário. Então, eu nem vou ficar retendo aqui, né? Então, é coisas aqui, ó, coisas abstratas, como sentimentos, ou sensações, ou comidas, que você fala sobre comidas em grupo, né? Então, cacho de uva, penca de banana, muitas maçãs, tudo isso que não é contável. Então, aqui mais um exemplo. There was so much water on the bathroom floor. Então, tinha muita água no chão do banheiro. I didn't get much sleep yesterday. Eu não dormi muito a noite passada. Então, I don't eat much rice. Eu não comi muito arroz. E we don't have much money. Nós não temos muito dinheiro. Agora vamos para o vocabulário. Então, aqui o vocabulário, vamos falar sobre algumas coisas. Clean, limpo. Dirty, sujo. Dirty, né? Empty, vazio. Full, cheio. Right, certo. Wrong, errado. Ring, anel. E hug, abraço. Não é hug, é hug. Kiss, beijo. Young, aqui, ó. Uma pessoa jovem. Então, isso aqui é um young. Uma pessoa teenager também pode ser, ou adolescente. Adolescente. Um adulto. Aqui. Inside, quando você está dentro de alguma coisa. I'm inside my home. Estou dentro da minha casa. Ou I'm inside at home. Outside é quando você está fora. Quando você vai para algum lugar, você está fora. Tanto que lá nos Estados Unidos, na Califórnia, né, é muito comum um restaurante que tem na Califórnia chamado In-Out. Quando você quer levar ou quer comer lá dentro. Eu sempre pergunto no caixa lá. Você vai comer aqui fora ou vai comer aqui fora? Você vai comer aqui fora ou ou é para levar? Então, eles perguntam in or out? Só isso. Só para vocês saberem qual a importância de vocês saber do inside e outside. Towel, toalha. Soap, sabonete. Cracker, quando é o biscoito salgado, né? Napkin, guardanapo. Electricity bill, é conta de luz. E program, pode ser um programa de televisão, né? Uma série, qualquer coisa. Programa de jornal, um programa. Agora aqui vamos falar de 6 gírias do inglês. Então, quando eles querem falar quando uma coisa muito fantástica, muito legal, sempre falam awesome. Agora, quando vai esfriar, né? Para você relaxar, na verdade, você fala fica frio, né? Então é try out. Agora, quando você quer duvidar, né, de alguma coisa, e quer apostar, né, pode apostar. You bet. Quando você quer mandar uma real, falar uma verdade, keep it real. Agora, quando você quer, para você apaziguar uma briga, esquece, deixa para lá. Never mind. Agora, quando eles quer apoiar alguma coisa, ou quer te motivar a fazer alguma coisa, você fala, go for it. Vai lá, se joga. E aqui, eu não vou traduzir todas, mas algumas frases eu sei porque assistia muita série, tinha muitas dessas mensagens. Essa aqui é gossip. Essa aqui é best friend forever. Esse aqui. Oh my gosh. Não quer falar, oh meu Deus. What the fuck. Não quer falar, nossa, que taranã. É uma palavra. Deixa eu lembrar qual mais que eu me lembro. Dessas aqui eu não lembro de todas, pra falar a verdade. Aí, mais pra frente, né, vocês correm atrás aí, né, das informações, mas eu não lembro essa daqui, é muito comum essa ASAP. Parece ser muito comum, não me lembro agora. LOL, é óbvio, né? Loser, eles querem zoar alguém. Eles ainda fazem assim, ó. Esse símbolo aqui, o L, né? Pra quem não tá vendo. Não é assim mesmo. Quer dizer, acabou a outra mão, né? Loser, quando quer falar. Loser. Algumas gírias, né? Quando você quer chamar uma pessoa de muito atraente, muito bonita, né? Fala hot. Ou beautiful pra mulher, né? Cool, fantástico, dude, cara, essa, maravilhoso. To hang out, sair. Wheels, carros. Hot Wheels. Lembra do Wheels? Hot Wheels, pra aí que vem os carros. Beat, ganhar. Go, banana. Aloprar, enlouquecer. Bro, amigo. Hicks. Sapatos, my bad, foi mal, crash, dormir, swag, estilo, elegante. Mais um discurso aí para vocês. Tá aqui.
Thank you. I'm honored to be with you today for your commencement from one of the finest universities in the world. Truth be told, I never graduated from college, and this is the closest I've ever gotten to a college graduation. Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why'd I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. So my parents, who were on a waiting list, got a call in the middle of the night asking, "We've got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They said, "Of course." My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start in my life. And 17 years later, I did go to college. But I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford. And all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition. After 6 months, I couldn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was, spending all of the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on that calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college. but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference. My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love, and that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle. My third story is about death. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had a scan at 7:30 in the morning, and it clearly showed a tumor on my pancreas. I didn't even know what a pancreas was. The doctors told me this was almost certainly a type of cancer that is incurable, and that I should expect to live no longer than 3 to 6 months. My doctor advised me to go home and get my affairs in order, which is doctor's code for prepare to die. It means to try and tell your kids everything you thought you'd have the next 10 years to tell them in just a few months. It means to make sure everything is buttoned up so that it will be as easy as possible for your family. It means to say your goodbyes. I lived with that diagnosis all day. Later that evening, I had a biopsy where they stuck an endoscope down my throat, through my stomach and into my intestines, put a needle into my pancreas and got a few cells from the tumor. I was sedated, but my wife, who was there, told me that when they viewed the cells under a microscope, the doctors started crying because it turned out to be a very rare form of pancreatic cancer that is curable with surgery. I had the surgery, and thankfully, I'm fine now. This was the closest I've been to facing death, and I hope it's the closest I get for a few more decades. Having lived through it, I can now say this to you with a bit more certainty than when death was a useful but purely intellectual concept. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet, death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away. Sorry to be so dramatic, but it's quite true. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. When I was young, there was an amazing publication called the Whole Earth Catalog, which was one of the Bibles of my generation. It was created by a fellow named Stuart Brand, not far from here in Menlo Park, and he brought it to life with his poetic touch. This was in the late 60s, before personal computers and desktop publishing, so it was all made with typewriters, scissors, and Polaroid cameras. It was sort of like Google in paperback form 35 years before Google came along. It was idealistic, overflowing with neat tools and great notions. Stuart and his team put out several issues of the Whole Earth Catalog, and then, when it had run its course, they put out a final issue. It was the mid-1970s, and I was your age. On the back cover of their final issue was a photograph of an early morning country road, the kind you might find yourself hitchhiking on if you were so adventurous. Beneath it were the words, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." It was their farewell message as they signed off. Stay hungry, stay foolish. And I have always wished that for myself. And now, as you graduate to begin anew, I wish that for you. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Thank you all very much.
Things to my account that I need each day. One of them is something to look up to, another is something to look forward to, and another is someone to chase. Now, first off, I want to thank God, because that's who I look up to. He's graced my life with opportunities that I know are not of my hand or any other human hand. He has shown me that it's a scientific fact that gratitude reciprocates. In the words of the late Charlie Lawton, who said, when you got God, you got a friend, and that friend is you. To my family, that's who and what I look forward to. To you, Dad, you taught me what it means to be a man. To my mother, who's here tonight, who taught me and my two older brothers, demanded that we respect ourselves. And what we in turn learned was then we were better able to respect others. Thank you for that, Mama. And to my hero, that's who I chase. Now, when I was 15 years old, I had a very important person in my life come to me and say, who's your hero? And I said, I don't know, I got to think about that. Give me a couple of weeks. I come back 2 weeks later. This person comes up and says, who's your hero? I said, I thought about it. You know who it is? I said, it's me in 10 years. So I turned 25 10 years later. That same person comes to me and goes, so are you a hero? And I was like, not even close. Why? I said, because my hero is me at 35. So you see, every day, every week, every month, and every year of my life, my hero's always 10 years away. I'm never going to be my hero. I'm not going to attain that. I know I'm not. And that's just fine with me because that keeps me with somebody to keep on chasing. So to any of us, whatever those things are, whatever it is we look up to, whatever it is we look forward to, and whoever it is we're chasing, to that I say amen. To that I say, all right, all right, all right. And to that I say, just keep living, huh? Thank you.
I found that nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. Nothing. Nelson Mandela said, there is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that's less than the one you're capable of living. Now, I'm sure in your experiences in school and applying to college and picking your major and deciding what you want to do with life, I'm sure people have told you to make sure you have something to fall back on. Make sure you got something to fall back on, honey. But I never understood that concept, having something to fall back on. If I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything. I want to fall forward. I figure at least this way I'll see what I'm going to hit. Our consistency, you'll never finish. So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances. Don't be afraid to fail. There's an old IQ test, was 9 dots, and you had to draw 5 lines with a pencil within these 9 dots without lifting the pencil. The only way to do it was to go outside the box. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail big, to dream big. But remember, dreams without goals are just dreams. Reggie Jackson struck out 2,600 times in his career, the most in the history of baseball. But you don't hear about the strikeouts. People remember the home runs. Fall forward. Thomas Edison conducted 1,000 failed experiments. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Because the 1,001st was the light bulb. Fall forward. Every failed experiment is one step closer to success. You've got to take risks, and I'm sure you've probably heard that before, but I want to talk to you about why that's so important. You will fail at some point in your life. Accept it. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. You will suck at something. There's no doubt about it. And I know that's probably not a traditional message for a graduation ceremony, but hey, I'm telling you, embrace it, because it's inevitable. In the acting business, you fail all the time. Early on in my career, I auditioned for a part in a Broadway musical. Perfect role for me, I thought. except for the fact that I can't sing. I didn't get the job. But here's the thing. I didn't quit. I didn't fall back. I walked out of there to prepare for the next audition, and the next audition, and the next audition. I prayed. I prayed, and I prayed. But I continued to fail, and fail, and fail. But it didn't matter, because you know what? There's an old saying, you hang around the barbershop long enough, sooner or later you're going to get a haircut. So you will catch a break, and I did catch a break. Last year, I did a play called Fences on Broadway. But here's the kicker. It was at the Court Theater. It was at the same theater that I failed that first audition 30 years prior. The point is, every graduate here today has the training and the talent to succeed. But do you have the guts to fail? If you don't fail, you're not even trying. I'll say it again. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did. So imagine you're on your deathbed, and standing around your deathbed are the ghosts representing your unfulfilled potential. The ghost of the ideas you never acted on. The ghost of the talents you didn't use. And they're standing around your bed, angry, disappointed, and upset. They say, we came to you because you could have brought us to life, they say. And now we have to go to the grave together. So I ask you today, how many ghosts are going to be around your bed when your time comes? I just got back from South Africa. It's a beautiful country, but there are places there with terrible poverty that need help. And Africa is just the tip of the iceberg. The Middle East needs your help. Japan needs your help. Alabama needs your help. Tennessee needs your help. Louisiana needs your help. Philadelphia needs your help. The world needs a lot, and we need it from you. We really do. We need it from you young people. I mean, I'm not speaking for the rest of us up here, but I know I'm getting a little grayer. We need it from you, the young people, because remember this. You got to get out there. You got to give it everything you got, whether it's your time, your talent, your prayers, or your treasures. What are you going to do with what you have? I'm not talking about how much you have. Some of you are business majors, some of you are theologians, nurses, sociologists. Some of you have money, some of you have patience, some of you have kindness, some of you have love, some of you have the gift of long suffering. Whatever it is, whatever your gift is, what are you going to do with what you have? All right, now here's my last point about failure. Sometimes it's the best way to figure out where you're going. Your life will never be a straight path. I began at Fordham University as a pre-med student. I took a course called cardiac morphogenesis. I couldn't read it, I couldn't say it, I sure couldn't pass it. So then I decided to go into pre-law, then journalism. And with no academic focus, my grades took off in their own direction. I was a 1.8 GPA. University very politely suggested that it might be better to take some time off. I was 20 years old. I was at my lowest point. And then one day, and I remember the exact day, March 27th, 1975, I was my mother in her beauty shop. My mother owned a beauty shop up in Mount Vernon. And there was this older woman who was considered one of the elders in the town. And I didn't know her personally, but I was looking in the mirror, and every time I looked at the mirror, I could see her behind me, and she was staring at me. She just kept looking at me. Every time I looked at her, she kept giving me these strange looks. So she finally took the dryer off her head and she said something I'll never forget. She said, "Young boy, I have a prophecy, a spiritual prophecy." She said, "You are going to travel the world and speak to millions of people." And in the years that followed, just as that woman prophesied, I have traveled the world and I have spoken to millions of people through my movies. Millions who up till this day couldn't see me, who up till this day I couldn't see while I was talking to them, and they couldn't see me, they could only see the movie. They couldn't see the real me. But I see you today, and I'm encouraged by what I see. And I'm strengthened by what I see. Because taking risk is not just about going for a job. It's also about knowing what you know and what you don't know. It's about being open to people and to ideas. The chances you take, the people you meet, the people you love, the faith that you have, that's what's going to define you. Never be discouraged. Never hold back. Give everything you got. And when you fall throughout life, remember this: fall forward.
Seria isso, pessoal. Deixa eu parar de compartilhar. Vejo vocês na próxima aula e até mais.